Thank you so much, Prof. Anyanful, for so wonderful presentation and advertisement of the COBREC. We believe that after the end of the conference, we have more members to join us. So good morning, distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, and dear friends. It is not every day that we get to bring together so many bright minds from all over the Ghana and with special guests and colleagues all around the world. And today we have a privilege. It is my great honor to welcome you to the 2025 Joint Second COHAS and 15 COBREC Conference. This gathering brings together scientists, health professionals, academics, united by a shared commitment to advancing biomedical and clinical research. Our theme this year, Biomedical and Clinical Research in Africa, Connecting Scientists for the Future Innovation. It is not just a title, it is call for action. It reminds us that through collaboration, innovation, and shared dedication, we can transform challenges into solutions and shape a healthcare future for all. May the conversation, partnership, and discoveries that begin here inspiring lasting change in healthcare for Africa and beyond. Together, let us make this conference not just an event, but a turning point for the future of health research in Africa. I wish you a successful, fruitful, and memorable conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Oxana. Like I said, we will go straight to the point. We don't like beating around the bush. So next we'll call the provost of the College of Health and Allied Sciences. Without him, this conference would not have happened. He signed the checks for us. And he will deputize again for the Vice Chancellor, who has a very, very crazy week this week. So, Mr. Provost, over to you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Anyanful. Prof. Anyanful says scientists don't talk too much. But when you are a scientist and you become a member of management, you are most likely to talk more than the average scientist. So you indulge me if my welcome address is longer than that of the president of COBREC. Yes. Representative of the provost of the College of Agriculture and Natural Sciences, deans here present, directors, heads of department, president and members of the Convention of Biomedical Research Ghana, esteemed faculty, distinguished invited guests, our partners and sponsors, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I'm standing in for the Vice Chancellor and also representing myself. And like Prof. Anyanful said, the Vice Chancellor has a very, very tight schedule. Presently, the Finance Committee of the University of Cape Coast is ongoing. The committee is chaired by the Chairman of Council himself, and I'm also a member of that committee. I will be joining them shortly after this opening ceremony. So it is with great honor and immense pleasure that I welcome you all on behalf of the Vice Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast and on behalf of the management of the College of Health and Allied Sciences to this second College of Health and Allied Sciences COHAS Scientific Conference, which we are holding in conjunction with the 15th Convention of Biomedical Research Ghana, COBREC. We are gathered here under the compelling theme, Biomedical and Clinical Research in Africa, Connecting Scientists for Future Innovations. This theme could not be timelier given the realities and prospects of health and biomedical sciences in Africa and the wider global context. The demand for innovation, collaboration, and translational impact in biomedical and clinical research is at its highest. It is therefore refreshing that this platform brings together leading scientists, researchers, clinicians, industry partners, policymakers, and students to engage in dialogue, knowledge sharing, and forward-looking collaboration. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to briefly reflect on our shared journey with the Convention of Biomedical Research Ghana. 3 years ago, that's in 2022, the University of Cape Coast, through COHAS, had the distinct privilege of hosting the first College of Health and Allied Sciences Scientific Conference in conjunction with the 13th Convention of Biomedical Research Ghana Conference. That historic joint conference was held under the theme Deploying Cutting-Edge Biomedical and Clinical Research to Achieve the Sustainable Development Goals in Sub-Saharan Africa. That gathering was not only a success, but also a landmark moment for our college and for biomedical research in Ghana. It was a forum that fostered rigorous scientific discourse, created networks that are still thriving today, and sparked collaborations that have since evolved into impactful research ventures. Indeed, the outcome of that conference demonstrated the power of collective thinking and the potential of partnerships to address health challenges within the sub-region. We remain grateful to COBREC for their collaboration and foresight in partnering with us for that inaugural joint event. As part of my personal vision as provost, which was shared with the college, we resolved as a college that will hold a scientific conference every 2 years to promote research and scientific discourse within and beyond the college. Considering the enormous effort and resources required to organize such conferences, we were delighted when we again received an invitation from COBREC to jointly organize this conference. I was personally excited, having been part of COBREC since 2013, and knowing firsthand the caliber of speakers it attracts, the quality of scholarships it sustains, and the transformative impact its conference generates. If you were here in 2022, you would attest to the fact that that joint COHAS COBREC conference was not only well attended, but it also drew impressive participation from diverse scholars in biomedical research within and outside Ghana. It was a remarkable success, one that remains a reference point for collaboration in our field. Our second scientific conference would ordinarily have been held in 2024. But as you know, circumstances sometimes compel adjustments. If you say it was because of Russia-Ukraine war, then you might sound like a smart politician finding an excuse for every failed manifesto promise. But in truth, we are grateful for divine timing. When Prof. Akwesi Ayamfo approached me with the idea that COBREC wants us to have a joint conference again, I was more than excited. It was almost like a divine call. And as Paul said in the Bible, we cannot be disobedient to the heavenly vision. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to extend our deepest gratitude to the leadership of COBREC, and in particular to that small group of eminent scientists who over the years have committed their personal resources not only to sustain and ensure that COBREC meets regularly, but have also made it a point of duty to enrich the conference with their presence and participation. I'm not a person given to flattery, but indulge me to single out Professor George Akwamensa, like Prof. Ayamfo did, for special appreciation. He has been a model and a mentor to many biomedical scientists, not just in Ghana, but across the world. And as I admitted in 2022, he has many secret admirers. And I can boldly say I am one of them. George, God really bless you for all that you do. Ladies and gentlemen, this is also an opportune moment to highlight the strides made by the College of Health and Allied Sciences and the University of Cape Coast at large. The University of Cape Coast continues to be recognized as one of the leading universities in Africa in terms of research influence and impact, ranked #1 in Ghana and among the top in our sub-region for research citations in the Times Higher Education World University Rankings. Within the College of Health and Allied Sciences, UCC, we take pride in training highly skilled health professionals and scientists across medicine, nursing, pharmacy, physician assistantship, biomedical sciences, and allied health disciplines who are serving across Ghana and beyond. Our faculty and students are engaged in impactful research on infectious and non-communicable diseases, reproductive and child health, mental health, drug discovery and development, contributing to solutions that directly address the health needs of our community. Our college has also established strong international collaborations with partner institutions in Europe, North America, and other parts of Africa, opening pathways for research exchange, capacity building, and joint publications. Notably, our college has expanded community-based education and service, ensuring that our research and training impacts not only academic space, but also the lives of ordinary people in rural and underserved areas. Ladies and gentlemen, building on this foundation of excellence and on the success of the 2022 conference, today's conference seeks to push the frontiers even further. By focusing on connecting scientists for future innovations, we are acknowledging that the future of biomedical and clinical research in Africa cannot be realized in silos. It requires strong networks, multidisciplinary approaches, cross-border collaborations, and the intentional integration of young scientists into research ecosystems. It is through such connections that Africa will harness its potential, contribute to global knowledge, and develop innovative solutions tailored to the continent's unique health challenges. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, this conference promises stimulating plenary sessions, insightful keynote addresses, panel discussions, and poster presentations. This will not only showcase cutting-edge research, but also provide opportunities for mentoring, networking, and the co-creation of new knowledge. This year, we are especially privileged to have eminent keynote speakers who will enrich our conference with their insights and experience. We have Prof. Eliso Osudabo, Professor Margaret Japong, and Dr. Yao Bediako. We are confident that their contributions, alongside those of our many presenters, panelists, and discussants, will make this conference a deeply rewarding experience for all participants. And I will encourage our postgraduate students here, just take advantage, to connect with these eminent scientists, the keynote speakers. These are people I personally admire. And when I say, some of them may not know me closely, but you see, in the scientific world, we know the who is who. Yes. So these are people I personally admire, and they are great scientists and making the nation and our continent very proud. So we are highly privileged to have them with us. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to acknowledge the dedication of the local organizing committee and the scientific committee of this for this conference, chaired by our indefatigable Professor Akwesi Ayamfo. Our faculty, staff, and students whose tireless efforts have made this event possible. I would like to single out Prof. Akwesi Ayamfo and appreciate him for his efforts in putting together this conference. In fact, if you have him as your chief organizer, you can go to sleep. The passion, the dedication, the commitment he exhibits with his organizing prowess are worth commending. To our sponsors and partners, we say a heartfelt thank you for your generosity and commitment to advancing biomedical research in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin this conference, let us remind ourselves that our collective mission goes beyond sharing research findings. We are here to inspire, to connect, and to innovate for the future of health on our continent. I urge all participants to engage fully, ask bold questions, forge meaningful partnership, and envision how the ideas exchanged here will translate into real-world solutions that improve lives. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel very proud and honored to specially welcome you once again to the University of Cape Coast, the University of Competitive Choice, and to the second COHAS and 15th COBREG Joint Scientific Conference. May our deliberations over the coming days be fruitful, transformative, and impactful. I thank you for your kind attention, and God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Professor, for his speech was long because he was talking for himself and the VC. And he's part of management, so management, you talk. And they said teachers are people who talk even when students don't want to listen. So, all right, so thank you all. Like we said, we scientists, we go straight to the point. So we finished the opening ceremony. So we are starting with our first keynote. And I would like to invite my director, Professor Samuel Che, who will be chairing this session. So he would introduce the keynote speaker, and then we all listen with rapt attention to Professor Ellis Dabo, who is a very good friend. He delivered the first keynote in 2010 at Noguchi. So we've come a long way. And if I tell you what COBREG has done for people, I'll tell you. But COBREG has done a lot for people. So, well, Professor Che, he's my director. When he speaks, I keep quiet.
Thank you very much, Prof. I guess you said scientists don't talk much. But today I just saw you try to do some small politics. It's very important. Now even science is even going diplomacy or diplomatic. You need to sometimes be careful what to say and how you say it. Colleagues, I must say that if I was wearing the other cloak, I would have said that the keynote speaker is my son. Sometimes people don't understand why we say those things. When we stand in the pulpit, whether you are 5,000 years old, you are our children. People don't understand. Pastors don't respect. You are calling your grandfather your son. If you want to understand why it is like that, go and call Paul and ask him. When you call many, many people his children, meanwhile, I don't think he had a son for himself anyway. So we'll look at that one. Today, I have the singular honor to introduce the keynote speaker. And the keynote speaker for this session is Professor Ellis Dabo, and he is the immediate past Pro-Vice Chancellor of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. In fact, that university has a very long name. The name sounds like a sentence, but it's very interesting. In Kumasi, he is a professor of epidemiology and global health, a consultant, public health physician, and researcher. He also served as both deputy director and director of the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research into Tropical Medicine for a period of 8 years. He continues to make significant strides in securing and managing multi-million-dollar research grants from principal granting institutions such as the European Union, National Institute of Health, MasterCard Foundation, the World Bank, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, as well as many bilateral organizations. He has a wealth of experience in resource mobilization, grantmanship, research management, clinical trials, and community-based research implementation. His research interest lies in pandemic preparedness, epidemic-prone diseases, vaccine development, and non-communicable diseases. Currently, he leads KNUST, as I indicated, I don't want to mention the sentence again. He leads KNUST's Africa Health Collaborative, funded by the MasterCard Foundation. Prof. Owusu Dabo serves as the Executive Steering Committee chairperson for the 9 collaborating higher education institutions in Africa and Canada. Through his leadership, over 2,000 primary health care workers across all regions of Ghana have benefited from capacity strengthening workshops, short courses, and scholarship for certificate degrees and postgraduate programs. Prof. Owusu Dabo currently has over 300 scientific publications. One time, one of my students asked, "Sir, so when will I also have 2?" And I said, they all started from 0. So you can also get there. He has over 300 scientific publications. He has over 26,000 and counting citations. An H-index of 51. If we are talking about H-index, and you know how it comes by, you understand what I'm talking about. H-index of 51 and an I-10 index of 156, making him one of Ghana's top 5 research scientists. Ellis is a Perman International Scholar at the University of Pennsylvania, USA. He also traveled extensively and serves on several boards at both local and international levels, thus providing massive network for work. His passion is in building capacity of next generation scientists and health system to help solve Africans' health challenges through scientific innovation and research collaboration. Prof. Ellis Owusu Dabo received his PhD from the University of Nottingham, UK, a BSc, an MPH, and MBCHB from KNUST Kumasi. He has additional qualifications from both the Ghana and the West African Colleges of Physicians. Professor Ellis is married to Joyce, with whom they have 3 boys, and fellowships with the Assemblies of God, Ghana. Thank you very much. That's why I'm saying that he's my son. And the last time I just whispered, just this morning, I whispered into his ears that we've been gossiping about him. And he asked me, is it for a good reason or not? And I said, it's for a good purpose. I have the singular honor to invite our keynote speaker to take the podium. Shall we all join me so that we all give him a round of applause so that as he comes to talk about that.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much, Prof, for the kind introduction. The last time I checked on the ranking, I have left the top 5 in the country. I think I'm number 8 now, so people are rising. It means that if we don't keep working, we'll keep sinking down. So I think I'm number 8. The Vice Chancellor, represented by the Provost, the College of Health Sciences, Professor Martins Echo, the President of COBREC, my former student, Dr. Oksana Rabinina, Professor Akwesi Anyamfo, who is both the local organizer, where's Akwesi? Okay. Who is both the local organizing committee chair and, of course, leading the scientific committee and the charge for this very important conference. My other distinguished speakers, keynote speakers, in particular, I want to recognize my boss, Professor Mrs. Margaret Japong, who is right here with us today. And of course, I also recognize Dr. Yaobediakon, who perhaps is online or maybe will join us later. I also want to recognize deans, directors, other provosts or representatives of provosts, graduate students, distinguished faculty, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to you all. Hey, good morning, that's it. And whilst I greet you again, I want a good response. I want you to reflect on the slide above. Kwesi was actually going to say UCC, and then he said KNUST. I didn't say it. The first one you said KNUST. So I'll leave you to reflect. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Good morning. Good. It is indeed a great honor to be here today to speak on a topic that is very, very dear to my heart. As you'd have noticed, each of us has picked within the overarching theme something that we believe, a topic that we believe will enhance our discussion. And therefore, for me today, I am pleased to share with you one potential way of enhancing our collaboration within the scientific community, and that is promoting academia, industry, research partnership for innovation and sustainable development. I shall try to look at the mandate of universities, what we are supposed to be doing, what research and innovation is about, the need for academia-industry collaboration, potential areas of collaboration, some challenges that confront us, and then I'll give us a charge. But before I do so, let me actually start by recognizing one of our founders of COBREG, and I think it's been overstated this morning. We cannot overemphasize it. Professor George Akwamensa is here with us, and I want us to give George a resounding round of applause, because these are the unsung heroes in the scientific communities of Ghana, scientific community of Ghana. If George were to be a politician, I'm sure that the word around him will be all over the place. He's just a wonderful mentor, excellent scientist, and a very, very true collaborator. Great friend of ours, and has been one of the pivots of this association, the COBREG. There is no doubt that scientific research that promotes innovation in technology leads to national development. There's no doubt at all. When institutions of higher learning collaborate with industry, the level of development attained is not only at a high throughput, but also leads to potentially sustainable development. Therefore, higher education institutions are not just learning centers, but pillars of knowledge, hubs of creativity, problem solving, and the backbone of fundamental research. The reason why we are called lecturers and not just simply teachers. Professor Chair, I would like to ask this question. Why do we need academia-industry partnerships? It is worth to know that as we find ourselves in both the fourth and fifth industrial revolutions, investing in technology and research is as crucial as ever. And perhaps is the reason why we need to get closer to industry. To achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 3 on health, 7 on energy, 13 on climate action, it is imperative that we utilize research and development as tools for driving sustainable development. Of course, beyond the Agenda 2030, the African Union has also committed to Agenda 2063 since 2013. And these goals can only be achieved when we work together as industry, collaborating with academia. So why do we need academia-industry partnerships? Of course, as part of the directive principles of state policy, we are aware that Article 38(3)(a) of the 1992 Constitution states that the state shall, subject to the availability of resources, of course, that's the defense of the politician all the time, subject to the availability of resources, provide equal and balanced access to secondary and other appropriate pre-university education, equal access to university of equivalent education with emphasis on science and technology. Profound. This is a constitutional mandate. Profound. Against this backdrop, for us in KNUS, one of our core values obviously is leadership in innovation and technology. The other reason why we need to get close to industry is that only 10% of graduates in Ghana find jobs after their first year of completing school. Only 10%. Let me welcome my own classmate, Professor Sebastian Eliasson, who is Dean School of Medical Science. I welcome you, sir. Only 10% of graduates in Ghana find jobs after first year of completing school. And it may take up to 10 years for a large number of graduates to secure employment. This is from ISA. I don't know what they mean by a large number. And of course, the reason is that it's due to lack of employable skills, poor attitude that we cannot talk about. I mean, everything we discuss today, we can lay hold on the science and talk about the science and the science and the science and the science. One of the missing pieces, which I shall discuss today, is obviously the attitude of the graduate towards not just job opportunities, but also during training, the core activities of science. Our inability to engage in entrepreneurial skills, and of course, the lack of capital for entrepreneurship. Now, that said, Zora Neale, he says, research, quote, research is formalized curiosity. It is poking and prying with a purpose, end of quote. Certainly, research involves painstaking effort to unearth answers, whilst innovations transform these existing technologies and or services to enhance living, boost economies, and address the most difficult challenges we face today. It is worth noting that where growth begins, we can make strides through innovations and sprouts for industrial revolution. Consistency is key. For research and innovation to make real impact, they must transcend the boundaries of lecture rooms and laboratories. This is where industry plays a pivotal role in driving applied research through to commercialization for sustainable development. Our universities do have a mandate. Our mandate is to provide higher education, undertake research, disseminate knowledge, foster relationships with the outside persons and bodies. Now, when I say outside persons and bodies, I'm referring obviously to industry and other important stakeholders. Hence, collaboration with industry will help the university and industry to achieve synergies in their respective mandate. And building academia-industry collaboration will empower the industrial sector to connect to higher education. Collaboration will allow university and industry to learn from each other and build upon their strengths, thus ensuring that there's mutually beneficial engagement and relationship for both academia and industry. The role of industry in research, innovation, and national development. Professor Chair, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at a glance, academia and industry may initially appear as separate entities. The former oriented towards theoretical exploration and the latter towards practical applications. Academia nurtures bold ideas, rigorous inquiries, and the freedom to imagine without any immediate constraints, while the industry, on the other hand, provides the operational scalability to transform theoretical prototypes into tangible products, and also translating novel innovations into real-world impact. Through leveraging institutional infrastructure and ingenuity, industry actualizes innovation. And of course, the journey of idea conceptualization to implementation can be significantly long, but may be accelerated through the collaborative synergies that academia builds with industry. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, industries are instrumental in advancing research and nurturing innovations by investing in technology, collaborating with academic institutions, and developing potential solutions to local constraints whilst maintaining our global outlook. While higher education institutions and government agencies contribute to research, industries provide the practical application, funding, and commercialization needed to turn these ideas into impactful solutions. Today, many Ghanaian companies invest in several of these areas, and I shall give you a couple of examples. Building academic industry collaboration enhances the skills and employability of our students, our researchers, by exposing them to the state-of-the-art industrial practices. This will set the pace for bridging the skills gaps between academia and industry, to also give our departments and, of course, the entire university the needed visibility. A couple of examples of areas that we can look at. For example, in agric and agribusiness. Professor Chair, several universities collaborating with the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research and the international partners have developed and promoted some hermetic storage bags and prevent insect infestations in grains without chemicals. Those hermetic storage bags, referred to as zero-fly storage bags, were developed to reduce post-harvest losses by up to 90% in this country. For maize, cowpeas, and rice, and extend the shelf life of grain for up to 2 years. I hope we can do the same for yams, and for cassava, and for others, tomatoes, so on and so forth. For instance, the Ghana Grains Development Project, supported by industry players, introduced high-yielding maize varieties that have significantly increased our farmers' income and, of course, earnings. In the pharmaceutical and healthcare sector, local pharmaceutical companies have invested in research to produce affordable medicines for malaria, for hypertension, and other prevalent diseases. A typical representation of our collaboration with industry is one with Dan Adams, partnering with international communities in the provision of antiretroviral medicines. It's definitely the need for industry to collaborate with academia. Why the need? I will just show you what you know already, the 3 Ds of discovery, development, and delivery in terms of our engagement through innovation. Typically, when we go through discovery, there's a lead, there's an identification, and obviously there's optimization through basic research. That translates into development through translational research, and usually you tend to have new improved tools, products, services, as I've just given examples in agribusiness and in health. Hopefully that can go into market approval and manufacture, into delivery, and these products then get into the market. And then, of course, there's demand for improved, newer tools. Some of you who are using certain apps today, you will say, it's not user-friendly. Tomorrow you see another one. It's because post-market survey is giving it a better outlook. It's the same thing for many of the interventions that we do have. But the reason why I am proposing that there's greater collaboration is not because it's an error in our country, for example, for industry to be leading academia. I am of the view that academia should be leading industry. And then, when we provide the leads, they pick it up. And then, of course, they can go through the cycle which I've just shown you, which is discovery, goes through translational research, we work with them. It's not one or the other. We work with them, and then there's development, and then there's delivery. When there's delivery, we want to see improvements. And then, of course, there's demand for better improvement. This is what translates into innovation and sustainable development. But I reflected, and then I said to myself, you know, if you look at our current student population in KNUS, we're 89,000. Don't know about you. I look at our student lecture ratio. It's horrible. It's horrible. But I won't go there. When you look at all of this, we have, 6 colleges, 1 institute of distance learning, and then, of course, you have an undergraduate population of about 87%, a postgraduate population of around 13, just under 13%. But is a paltry student-teacher ratio of about 52 to 1 on the average. Now, we are supposed to be science and technology, but we still run a humanities population about 30%. And then, when I looked critically at our research output, I realized that our engagement with the international community is what is projecting us in KNUS. I don't know about you. Our engagement with the international community is what is projecting us. Is that Dr. Paul Insia I'm seeing? Oh my goodness. Paul, it's good to see you. It's really good to see you. Sorry for the digression. Paul and I date very, very far. So 62.5% is the engagement we have presently in KNUS, and that is giving us about 3.05 impact in terms of our output. I looked at our academia industry collaborations. It's a paltry 2.3%. Now, at the current 2.3%, what is happening is that it's giving us a field citation of 48.87. This is the field citation, weighted citation impact. So I ask myself, if you're doing something at 2.3% and you have a field citation wrong, here we have 2.3% engagement, and that is giving us a 48.87 field weighted citation impact. I ask myself, if we were to move our engagement with industry from 2.3% to 10%, that means we deepen our collaboration, we have prototypes, we have ideas, we share it with them, we move on to the cycle which I just showed you previously. This is what is going to lead to 222.14 field weighted citation. Now, imagine that if you're able to do this at 20%, I don't know what will happen. So it is in our interest, our collective interest, that we collaborate. Our students have been told about equipment that they may never see in their lifetime as students. Maybe when they get into employment, then they will see the equipment for the very first time. Now, what if there was an opportunity to engage industry for those students to be able to test their hands on these things? By the time they finish, they are fit for purpose. Imagine what that happens, when that happens, what that leads to. Enhanced skills built, competencies, our intrigueness as scientists will increase. And if you remember the first cycle I showed you, what then happens is that you're ready to be able to enhance the usability of some of those equipments. So deepening our collaboration with industry will lead to enhanced field weighted citation impact. This is all on SciVal for those of you who know what I'm talking about. What's the missing link with the university? The missing link with the universities is that a typical, professor, starts with theories, hypotheses, you're a professor of something, you're conceptualizing, you have ideas, you have all sorts of things, and then you pursue this in science. Now, typically, we explore this through research. Explore knowledge, we promote science, we promote knowledge, scholarships, and so on and so forth, research outputs, books, publications, citations, scientific conferences, grants, whatever, all those things that we know best in doing. Keep doing these things. I call this intellectual property cycle. Credit myself. And then we seek for our promotions. Typically, people attain professorial rank, and then they have self-actualized, End of story for some people. it's the beginning of story for many of us. But it shouldn't be the end of story. Promotion, you get a promotion, you get an appointment, a promotion gives you this, you're fine. The typical, low middle income country. And then of course you start thinking about your retirement. You start thinking about your retirement. What's your retirement plan, George? And then we're already looking at liquid. We're looking at what will sustain us. So some of our friends will leave science completely and start doing something that they don't want to have science to anything to do with science at all. But that's part of retirement plan, of course. I have my own ideas for retirement. And then, of course, upon reflection, you realize that actually you have had very little engagement with industry. You'd notice that because, you see, it is all the things we do. I told you about the low, let me flip it, the high student lecturer ratio. So when you have a high student lecturer ratio, as we do, many of you, look at the quality of supervision. Let's be true to ourselves. Look at the quality of supervision. Look at the engagement. Look at the time you spend with your graduate students. Look at the time that you spend at the bench, in the laboratories, in the studios. Just look at it. And by the time you're so tired, even ideas starts, going away. So then upon reflection, you realize that, you've made very little impact on industry. You don't even engage with industry. Therefore, contributing to industry and finding your niche there becomes a problem. And then we exit. If you're lucky and you attain a professorial rank, you can have 10 more years, you attain 70. You want part-time, you probably can get part-time. If not, you can just exit and then do something else. Now, what is the missing link? Technology is a missing link. Hands-on with the industry is a missing link. We are not collaborating with industry. And I am saying that whilst we're bringing ourselves together in a community of scientists, and if we science is an intangible part. So the theories, the hypothesis, the pursue, the basic and applied translation, whichever. But I'm saying that when we focus on the tangibilities, the tangibles is the technology. That brings us closer to industry and service. Because you then start looking at the tangibles. And I tell you, I'm giving you one of the reasons why we're poor as universities. Our lack of dealings or close proximity with industry. And this must change. I'm proposing a paradigm shift. I'm proposing a paradigm shift that looks at innovation and entrepreneurships that brings us closer to industry. Because of our lack of, gravity towards industry, that is not coming from us. I mean, as I say, you're overwhelmed. Teaching. Mentioned this here over and over again. We become teaching-centric instead of research-centric. And when you are teaching-centric, it's not your fault. The numbers are too huge, so spending time on research is a whole enterprise. Very difficult, and it becomes difficult. So I'm proposing that we need innovation through the creative process of bringing in new goods and services that provide unique value for demanding, our clients, use customers for just, So our knowledge base, that system that we create through innovation. Here, we are creating a lot of knowledge through entrepreneurships. If we get closer to industry, this will be translated, if you remember the cycle that I showed with you to you earlier, and that obviously will lead to economic growth. So innovation and entrepreneurship, the creation and growth of new businesses, obviously will lead to, and we will be benefiting. Why not? We've been talking science, technology, engineering, mathematics, creating this knowledge base. And when we create this knowledge base, and industry picks it up, there's innovation, there's creativity, and then our entrepreneurships pick it up. When you add innovation to entrepreneurship, you can only see growth. And the first beneficiary of the growth is the universities. It's the universities. You know, it's the universities. They will be the first beneficiary of the growth. Okay, you can't you are the one who is doing the perfumery. You definitely smell of the flavor of the perfume, whatever it is. So we create knowledge. This is what we do. We create knowledge. And the idea is not for the knowledge to be put on shelves and so on and so forth, but be pursued vigorously and testing them for industry to pick them up. And then once that is done, we are in a position to ensure. And therefore, I am proposing that to fix that error, you know, so I'm proposing fix the screw in the wheel. So when we have the new ideas and we do the research and we have the resources, we nurture these ideas to commercialization, our communities benefit. We'll see the growth through that cycle I showed you. And then, of course, there's provision of feedback. There's new knowledge generated. And then, of course, those of you who know what we're doing, you know, we become zombies. We're still doing the same thing over and over and over again. As Akwesi was saying, it's a system that we know each other. In research, we know each other. It's the same people doing the same. But the good thing is that in fixing the wheel, what we do is that we provide these resources, we nurture commercialization, community, whatever feedback, and then you fix it with innovation and entrepreneurship. And I'm suggesting to us that this can be done through close proximity with industry, partnership with industry. And when we co-create, I'll tell you something, University of Arizona is working very closely with Formula One, F1. So they have a 50-year, those of you who love Formula One, I do. There's a 50-year plan in the development of the various vehicles that you see. So there's a whole 50-year plan for those vehicles. And it's a university that is working with them to develop those vehicles. So what do you imagine? If there are resources from Formula One, where would the resources go? It will come to the university. I tell you, we can call off the bluff of whoever is our sponsor and is not paying us. And we say that, look, we're able to generate income to pay ourselves. But it has to come from closer proximity with industry. That means self-efficacy is number one. And we have to watch out for the numbers and all the things that somebody say, Papa, this is so theoretical. No, it works. It's working. It's working elsewhere. I went to University of Toronto. Some of you know that insulin was discovered in University of Toronto. Google came out of University of Toronto. So you can imagine that if Google is making profits, the royalties will go to University of Toronto. It's that simple. Royalties will go to University of Toronto. And many of you have several examples here. If you develop a patent, a prototype of something, industry picks it up, and you are churning out trillions. We'll just say give us 2% of whatever prototype has moved to commercialization. And that's it. Professor Chair, a stronger collaboration between industries and academia accelerates innovation today, and it will be the bearing and overarching grounds for the development of our country. They have become powerful ecosystems where research and industry thrives. Research becomes solution-driven. Industry identifies real world, while academia develops cutting-edge solutions. Innovation is accelerated, and collaborative research ensures that there's sustainable deployment of technologies. At the same time, talent is nurtured. How do we promote research innovation in African institutions? Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as we know, our mandate is to consistently push the boundaries and the frontiers of knowledge, human knowledge, and ensure that we contribute to the development of our societies through research. Our contribution to research and innovation have not only advanced academic disciplines, but also transformed industries, economies, and societies. They are the birthplace of groundbreaking ideas, and I'm referring to academic institutions. I must say that universities have contributed largely to diverse fields, several areas. Personally, I can speak about medicine. under several areas in medicine, including precision medicine. Development of vaccines, cancer treatment, surgical procedures, radiological interventions, and these days, robotic interventions have led to remarkable advancement in the area of medicine. The mRNA technology behind the development of COVID-19 vaccines was built on decades of research at the University of Pennsylvania. The beauty of ingenuity in universities brings about these groundbreaking innovations, and it is worthy of note that without industry, these ideas become theories that is trapped in lecture rooms and laboratory stocks. This is why the contribution of industry to higher education institutions cannot be underestimated. A couple of examples in the local area: producing highly skilled researchers and innovations, conducting locally relevant research, establishing innovation hubs and startups. I'm delighted to hear that our universities have picked up the issue of entrepreneurships very, very well. Strengthening international collaborations. Many of us, but for international collaborations, wouldn't be where we are. Professor Chair, there are emerging areas with high impact for potential that African institutions of higher learning can innovate from. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's imperative that the collaborative synergy between academia and industry should gear towards investing in emerging areas. And those areas are known to us: artificial intelligence and big data sets, designs in machine learning and applicability in health and other areas, biomedical sciences. As we all know, AI can analyze patterns in climate, social media, health records, predict an outbreak of disease before it spreads. Big data sets, on the other hand, can help track diseases in real time, turning health workers into soldiers with foresights. These tools are available and they're emerging. I think that as we work with industry, we'll be able to do this. Conversely, there are also groundbreaking innovations in Africa. For example, in Tanzania, the Afria reality uses machine learning to predict malaria hotspots by combining satellite data and local case reports. Similarly, I know of this Nigerian project named the Ubengwa. It uses AI to analyze a baby's cry and detect birth asphyxia. These are emerging areas that we can look at. Spoke about precision chair. Professor Chair, Africa holds the most genetically diverse population on Earth, and yet most medicines are designed for Western genomes. A pill made for a European body might fail for an African and may even be deadly. I recall those days when we were doing some work on AC inhibitors and the use in black genomic populations and the impact. Several examples. A bullet would have been a bullet to kill anywhere. Some bullets called medicines may not necessarily work in every population. In fact, in some populations, they may be deadly. And it's important that in our populations where we have a variety of genomes, that we study these things. This is why it is important to invest in tailor-made treatments to African genetics or geneticists. This could revolutionize sickle cell, diabetes, hypertension, and many other diseases. Ghana, Nigeria, and South Africa have made significant strides in genomic medicine research, and several of these things are available for our own education. In the area of point-of-care diagnostics, today, many clinics in remote areas lack equipped laboratories, and therefore these facilities cannot process certain samples for diagnosing our patient population. It becomes sophisticated. This usually takes days or even weeks. Through academia-industry collaboration, African scientists can escalate the production of portable and affordable diagnostics that delivers results on the spot. Improves efficiency and helps with effectiveness. Ghana has already come out with a solar-powered, AI-driven microscope that diagnoses malaria in minutes without laboratory technicians. And this is what we are talking about. It's an area that we have to look at. In wastewater surveillance, today we talk about metadata and synchronization of our environmental data with our clinical phenotypes. And in wastewater surveillance, one of the areas we can look at is antibiotics and how we can look at the whole area of antimicrobial resistance. Wastewater surveillance can reveal drug resistance pathogens and predict or forecast potential outbreaks in slums. As African scientists, if we fail to study the wastewater surrounding us, we may face unanticipated and untreatable infections while the world moves on. Few researchers in Africa engaged in environmental surveillance should be celebrated and should be brought together working closely with our industry. And this obviously can foster our biomedical engineering as well. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, instead of constant expensive importation of basic needs, we can engineer homegrown solutions for our day-to-day domestic challenges. And I know that many East African countries have set the pace. Professor Chair, without sounding as though I'm only advocating for only industry and academia to collaborate, and I apologize for this slide, I also wanted to bring our attention that there's the so-called triple helix of academia, industry, and government. Now, I quoted the 1992 Constitution to make a case that governments have a role to play in this triple helix. I'm aware, as a former Pro-Vice Chancellor, of what constitutes a typical IGF and what it is used for in our universities. But I wanted to sound that we do have the universities, the industry, and certainly government. Each of us does have a role, and in this knowledge exchange, each of us, so the industry has a role in practical applications of the knowledge. Here in the universities, training, so that's our student faculty. And of course, when we engage, you have the university's industry coordinator sitting there in a typical ideal situation. And if this and that are working in knowledge exchange, we need the support of government in the so-called triple helix. So those of you who believe in the quadruple helix, there's also the community. So you have industry, academia, and the communities we work in. Professor Chair, there's a need to have new curricula that address these needs in the current dispensation, much as it is for our future. Data science, artificial intelligence, development planning, entrepreneurship, practical training, so that our students are fit for purpose. Not only must the universities focus on transfer of knowledge in classrooms and scientific publications, but also on the engagement of economic development through industrial partnerships. I know that there are challenges. I know that despite the potential benefit of this partnership, there are challenges that require careful management and alignment of goals. Of course, meeting expectations. One of the most significant barriers is the limited time and resources available for academics and industry personnel to connect. And whereas one sees or views something in one area, they also view, so for example, industry is looking at money. What is the return on investment? They will ask you, what's the return on investment? One of the most significant barriers is the limited time, as I indicated. And now with the high student-lecturer ratio, it's worse. Universities, inflexibility and bureaucracy in doing the same things over and over again, and sometimes without reason, is cause for concern. So lack of focus on an outcome-oriented is another challenge. Sometimes we just need to look at the outcome-oriented solution and move on. But that is quite problematic. But before I say thank you, let me just call us to action. Professor Chair, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, while in this presentation I've touted and promoted the need for linkages between industry and academia, I must complete this by saying that the pair cannot achieve their aims without the support of government in the so-called triple helix. Government, industry, academia, or rather, as I've indicated earlier, the quadruple helix of adding communities to this conversation. We must encourage a shift from publication-driven research to impact-driven science, exhibited by the technologies and entrepreneurships and rooted in the continent's indigenous knowledge and scientific needs. As scientists, we must jointly see the need for an African-led, African-owned, African-inspired biomedical and clinical research where scientists collaborate with the industry to translate innovations into meaningful developmental outcomes. So where do we go from here? We must make deliberate efforts and take intentional actions to invest in research through people while we promote innovations for sustainable development. And I call on all represented here within the quadruple helix and those who believe in the future of our country's progress by starting today. I implore academia to go back to the basics. Research, by partnering with industry to find solutions to the teething problems of our society with the support of government and the communities we impact. Together, we have the opportunity to dream, aspire, believe, create, and inspire before we expire. Thank you very much for your kind attention. And may the good Lord bless us all. I hope that I've given you food for thought and that we can have a meaningful engagement after this. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay.
Shall we give him a hand of applause once again? Our keynote speaker has given us food for thought. And then we have an opportunity to engage. When I began my career as a lecturer, anytime I gave my students assignment or any task, and they could not produce the result I wanted, my conclusion was that, but as I'm growing, whenever I give them questions and they are not able to answer, I first of all look at my question again. Is my question right? Things begin to change when we begin to grow. And I think that for us to be able to get the right feedback, it's sometimes the type of questions you ask. There are certain times you are teaching and the student will then ask another question in the class. You ask, what this one do in this class? What is he asking about? Or what is he talking about? Because what he's talking about is apparently very different from what we were talking about. Or you thought you were telling them. But after they have asked you the question, and the second person have also asked the question, they realize that, it means that you were not probably communicating well. This is the time for us to engage. And we have an opportunity for about 20 minutes, right? 10 minutes. Oh, you told me 20 minutes. Why have you reduced it? Okay. So we have barely 10 minutes to engage with our keynote speaker. I wouldn't want to hijack the platform. So if you have any question, anything you want to clarify, anything you want to just ask, please, this is the opportunity for you to do that one. Okay. Me, I have a question anyway, but let me give you the opportunity first. Okay. Okay, yeah. So we are going to take 3 questions at a time. I don't know how we are going to do that in 10 minutes, but we'll try. You know, in Africa, when we say 10 minutes, it means a lot. Please, we can go ahead. So please, if you get a microphone and you are asking the question, because of the nature of the arrangement here, if you could stand, so we can really view that.
Thanks very much for the nice presentation, and I feel this presentation is very good because I'm also coming from a technology park background, so I have that thought always that why Ghana should also go for that. So my question is, if you consider, for example, the collaboration from the point of view academia and industry, so if you ask, for example, academia to go for a collaboration with industry, academia will always think that industry is profit driven, while industry will think that academia is so theoretical. So there is a big gap between the two entities. So from that point of view, how can we bridge the gap between industry and academia and then let them collaborate together? Thank you very much.
Please, there's another hand here. We are taking 3 at a time for this one, and then we come back.
Thank you very much, Professor Adabo. So, I'm also thinking about how industry and academia can engage each other in terms of training of the graduate. So I know with some of the professions there's that interaction, but how can we expand that? How can we reduce the tendency of our graduates being so theoretical that they're really of no practical, they have very little practical experience at the time of graduation?
Thank you. So I think that one of the ways we can cement that industry-academia linkage is encouraging spin-off companies by faculty, academics themselves. In Ghana here, what I've noticed is that the policy framework that guides academics who are still in the universities to actually spin off and start their own companies is not that well defined. If you are using your time as a lecturer to have a biotech company, which actually merges with sometimes your research interest, that conflict exists. So I think that, I don't know what Prof will say about it, about the policy framework that we can establish. Because if you go to MIT, for example, a lot of the spin-off biotech companies are faculty members who actually teach at MIT.
Thank you very much. So the first one, obviously in Bridging the Gap, Professor Mensah introduces the concept of how we can expand training. I think it's very important. At the moment, we have started setting up what we call a Career Services Center. And the Career Services Center helps students to define competencies beyond classroom. So for example, soft skills, industrial liaison officers to be created. These are practical things that can be done. So colleges can have industrial liaison officers, for example, that you can send, they facilitate all of these. And the training has to be meaningful. It's always about the supervision. You know why? We know that Ghanaians can go to schools abroad, and instead of studying and earning the degrees, they'll end up doing some jobs and come back without the skills, the needed skills that they're supposed. It's a problem. So it's not just setting these centers up, like career services centers, career services, whatever, but also ensuring that there's supervision. Supervision is critical. So I think that in bridging the gap, we should start from the student point. That means have an office, a desk. If you say office, they'll come for allowance. So have a desk start with a small desk, somebody sits there and starts, identifying skills and competencies beyond the classroom. Where can we send this person? Which area can the person build skill? Starts from year 1, year 2, year 3. By the time you're done with 4 years or 6 years or whatever years of training, you would have been very close to that particular industry that you're working, much as it is for law and medicine and all these other traditional, setups. So for me, I think in bridging the gap, we should start with the student, because the student becomes a faculty later. And then hopefully, they repeat this sort of thing. Now, the other thing is also to have some fairs. If you have a fair, so UCC can have a fair, bring industry, invite them. I don't know how many industrial players are here with us today, but this is a very important gathering that they should come and listen and be part of it. Sponsor, at the least, they can pay for the abstracts, the book of abstracts, and so on and so forth. And then the conversations begin. We have this. Can you support us? We're doing this rice paddy farming. We're noticing that we have pests that are doing this. Do you have this and that and that? And then we'll start testing these things, so there can be a scientific knowledge, churned out by way of that. So I think the conversation must it's not always, as you say, it's not always about money. The industry likes to know about return on investment, as I indicated, but let them understand at least the fundamental basis for which what they're doing operates. For them, it is the state of the art and how they can multiply the cities or the dollar, whatever it may be. So a practical way will be, as I say, the Career Services Center. A practical way will be ensuring that students log these industrial experiences. So it's not a walk in the park for them. It's something that they go in there, and that there's supervision. As I say, there's internships, and that means internships. You're there, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. On the policy about it's a problem. Really, what we need to do, I know that many of us are using WIPO research, for example, from the World Intellectual Property Organization. Their framework is what many universities are using. But it's important to contextualize it. So we haven't contextualized it. Years ago, when I returned from a training in Geneva, what I did was that I brought intellectual property documents and all of these things, sat down with my then Vice Chancellor, and I was introducing a fresh concept within which we can operate. Because you see, many of these established industrial economies have done things over and over and over and over again. For us, there are a few areas that we are now beginning. I recall when I was trying to register my first patent with the EU, working with friends. My friend, the book we eventually had to come up with, and if you have ever done registering a patent before, it's not easy. And so there has to be a framework that we can contribute to and say, this is where we believe it is workable for us. And that's where I talk about indigenous knowledge. Many people think that it is copy-paste from outside there and bring it here, and then it should work. I was talking about the bullet that is supposed to work everywhere. But when it comes to medicines and other areas, we know that it's not so. Context-specific indigenous knowledge application is critical. And therefore, you don't just copy and paste. So I agree with you. We're using a blanket thing, which is from the WIPO research. Many of us do. But it's important that offices of grants and research and the way, I don't know how you call it, innovation and whatever research, whatever name we have for it, it is important that we look at this. Because you see, spin-offs are critical. As I speak with you, one of the there are 3 companies that some students that we are mentoring in the MasterCard Foundation thing have come up with. One of them, fantastic idea of the white cane that the blind use. All this person has done is just introduce a solar panel, and guess what? He's also added a noise-making whatever that is triggering, and you can start talking to your white cane and so on. It's very interesting. Now, if I have 3 of these companies and I'm using university time, what does it mean? And elsewhere, there are economic tools for calculating all of these things. Here we fight over research money and all these things. And so there's an economic tool, for example, Tvucc. Tvucc helps you, your time of contribution, your full-time employment contribution, if it's 5% of your basic salary, it can be estimated. If the money is coming from EU and you have 10% contribution, it is built into your salary, and there's no problem. But you see, Oya through Oya in this country. Many people will not understand what I said. The person who is an executioner doesn't attempt lying with the head faced up. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think I will want to take another set, the second set of questions, and then I think we'll go. You have one.
Okay, I like your finishing. African inspired, African led, African produced. So I'm going Africa. So take Burkina Faso. A desert country is producing tomatoes for Ghana. Why can't we also go there and learn how to produce tomatoes? Why should we import meat from US with all these US tariffs? Why wouldn't you go to Mali, where they have all these things? So what is preventing us, from working within Ghana itself and between even West Africa? What is the problem? Do you have an idea how we can resolve this?
Any other? Oh.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. It's very insightful. You made mention of the triple helix, where we have government, industry, and then academia working together. You realize that in our setting, government is very much aware that academia does so well in research. We come up with so many innovations, but the funding is an issue. So in this case, how are we supposed to convince government to actually see the importance of academia so that that gap that we are talking about can be bridged? Thank you. The gap between industry, academia. Yeah.
Okay. Any other, please? You have a question? There's one.
I think my question will buttress the question that came recently. I think that there seems to be a lack of underappreciation of the economic potential of science and technology. And my question is that, I mean, for a conference of this stature, we should definitely have a government official present, trying to also get feedback on the views that will be shared here. And I'm also thinking that how can we practically get government involved? I mean, in other places, there seems to be a drive through lobbying of their Congress, their parliaments, to get government really interested in the economic potential of academia and industry partnerships. And so I'm thinking, how can we practically do that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let me just say that
Prof, I want to add this one because I'm the chair. Give me the opportunity to ask this question. In your own definition, what is an industry? My reason for asking that question is that I don't know how many of you can mention any industry in Cape Coast. The one that probably some of us, when we came here to learn, we came to meet was Amin Sangari. Now it is not there. So please, what is an industry? So that we'll be able to contextualize the industry. When you walk on the streets of Accra, it's either you get a drinking spot or you get a lotto kiosk or something. I don't know. So probably, maybe you will tell me what an industry is. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. So I'll start with Professor Ayamfo's question on what is preventing us from working together. I mean, it's not strange when even scientists don't communicate. I mean, we know that in the field of science, we say that if Robert Koch had read Gregory Mendel, our world of science would have been a better place, right? So there's suspicion everywhere. People suspect each other. and it spins off to trade, economy, and so on as well. I mean, how many times haven't the African Union decided to be a union? ECOWAS. Even your own lab, if somebody comes in there and is, you know, you know what I'm talking about. So, but the suspicion is there. So lack of trust, lack of suspicion, and suspicion, lack of trust, and the fact that, you know, people are not willing to share. You know, are not willing to share. I invite somebody to come to I have a set up my laboratory, comes in and makes use of my resources. And then later I realized that the resources he came to make use of, he actually had funding for those resources and didn't pay for it. Didn't even acknowledge it. You think next time I'll do a thing like that? No. You see, so it's from our own ways of doing things and the lack of trust. Governments don't trust each other, individuals don't trust each other, and it's like we're competing, really. And I say, yeah, we're competing. I know. Academics are competing. Otherwise, we should forget about these exams and interviews and everything we're doing, because at the end of the day, we're grading people to first class, second class, upper, and so on and so forth. There's competition, clearly. Even amongst us, as professors, whatever, there's competition. And we want to outdo each other. Should we rather be complementing each other? I don't know. But then what then happens to all the area of ambition and becoming this and that and so on? So we want to talk to each other. I just mentioned Agenda 2063. How many of you know about Agenda 2063? 2013. It's been established. African governments are working, you know. Okay, all right. See? Okay. So, but if I count the number of hands that were up, there were less than 10. So even our own brand, we are failing to showcase our own brand. And therefore, it makes it very difficult to even know who is in the space doing what. If you are doing tomatoes and I'm doing onions, and we need both to make the soup, then there's probably better gain partnering and having a win-win rather than competing. So perhaps that's the way to go. We need to start looking at how we can complement each other, and then ensure that, you know, we work together. Because at the end of the day, it's about survival. And if it's survival in the scientific space, how do we? But I've given you a very easy version of the answer. I know that in the real world of science, it is competition. And competition clearly leads to the tangibles, and the tangibles hopefully will bring about the output. So trust, building trust, and making sure that, you know, we see that we complement each other. Funding is an issue, of course. I'm aware of that, and this is why I've been talking about, you know, innovation and entrepreneurships in the space. Because you see, I am of the opinion, madam, that we have to look for the money, and that's what we do. Researchers look for the money, and we assume that when we do something and it gets to the policy point, government will take it up, and hopefully, you know, our expectation is that it will, you know, but we know that it doesn't happen. And I'm saying that we should get to a point, if we get to the basics. I was giving you examples of those universities that some of you know, better ones, that have come up with tangible outputs. Government will run to them, and they will take those outputs and obviously will need to use it for their votes. And the point is that when it gets to that point, you become powerful. The money will come to you. If I'm advocating for a point where it is such that universities get to the point where they can call off the bluff of those who are sponsoring them. Because you see, we have become so dependent. And it is so bad that we have lost even our intellectual freedoms. And because of survival, we have become aligned to parties, including political parties. So we have lost the core mandate of research, tangible outputs, potentially leading to commercialization, spin-offs, as my friend was talking about, and leveraging and bringing us to a point of resourcefulness that does not lead to dependency. That's who we are. That's who academics are. Now, as soon as you lose that one, and I was talking about becoming teaching-centric because of the overwhelming numbers, and we have lost all the... Then what happens is that you become a meetings person, as he and I were. Many of you are into meetings every day. It's meetings. You get home, you're tired, back. You don't have time for creativity and innovation. That's what I've been talking about now. That will bring about the funding. I promise you. I went to the lab where Google started. I went to the lab where insulin was developed. Can you imagine, from Eli Lilly and all these pharmaceutical companies and so on and so forth, George and others have worked in all sorts of industry areas. I went and spent some time when we were in seeding labs in Boston, and we were doing some work, in some... People have come up with all sorts of things. And I'm saying that is what makes you powerful. That is what brings about the funding. Where do we start? It's a chicken and egg issue. Where do we start? Do we ask government to bring the money? This is where we are. We've been talking about this. Years ago, I don't know whether you were in the meeting, George. Years ago, we met in Accra, and we were asking for 1% of GDP to be sunk into... The Kenyans have started it. They've started it. And they're increasing it. And we said, the way to go was to have that amount of money, even if you wanted to do competitive bidding, for us to be able to access the funds. To date, I don't know whether it has happened. Me, I don't know, because I've been looking for my money from elsewhere. But the point is that the people who provide the piper with the, if you like, the flute, they are the people who will call the tune they want. So if I want Amaji Dede Yensum Yensum, that's the song I will ask them to play for me, because they are asking, they are paying. They pay for the flute, the pipe that you are playing, and so on and so on. So this is where we are at. And we've still been at the talking stage. Talking. When you talk for some time, then you have to act. Me, I don't talk, I act. So you just need to do something and then show that. I was telling George this morning, show that by your template or example, others may see, and then, because the government, they have all sorts of priorities. All sorts of priorities. And I can tell you that research and development is not one of them. I can tell you. Research and development is not one of them. So we need to look into the space, and I am saying that we as universities must do what we know best. I give this example. I have a woman who's, those of you who know Kumasi, the electricity company of Ghana, Atedum. There's the military, this thing. They've erected an old clock. It's been sitting there. There's a woman who sits there. Hajia. George, you may know her. She's been sitting there for 70 years now. Hajia has been exporting granules to everywhere in the world. Hajia is resourceful. Hajia has trained people and got houses, mansions. Hajia is very resourceful. Exporting peanuts. I say we promote knowledge, and I don't see why a professor who promotes knowledge and scholarships should not be resourceful. Question is, where do we start from? Do I wait for government to come, or can I start something? And I say, if you have a better idea, you can start from there. I'm addressing your funding issue. And finally, there was an issue of underappreciation of science and technology. Don't suck it in. This is who you are. Don't look for appreciation from anybody. We don't actually look for appreciation. We do what we have to do. And if one day somebody says, oh, he's the one who discovered this, is okay. But the point I was making earlier is that let's bring people around. So next meeting, the policy people should be here, parliament, whatever, industry should be here, and all those people should be here to support what we are doing. And then, hopefully, our expectation is that they will be able to see what we do, and then we can get them involved in what we're doing. But I'll tell you, if you are making the mark, they will look for you. Oh, yeah. If you're making the mark, they will look for you. You don't go looking for appreciation or anything. They will look for you. Because when they realize that, look, the cocoa that they have increased by 5%, there's a disease that, you have a solution to through research. And then you're producing a certain prototype that doesn't take off. Perhaps if it gives even a better advantage in terms of the seeds and what it does. And you have done this in your laboratory or in your farm or in your whatever. And you have shown that this one has better whatever than the other one. What do you think they will do? They'll come looking for you. They'll come looking for you because they want the bucks and you also want the recognition will come. And then they will come and then listen to you. My definition of industry is not about the size of a company. My definition of industry is moving your ideas and concepts beyond the boundaries of theory and just the classroom. So my definition of industry is ensuring that what you have in your head translates to the betterment of the people, the communities. And so if it is this small chair that you are making an impact, that's your industry. Once you've translated that idea into a formidable, impactful, hopefully sustainable, okay, in terms of what it does to people's lives and life expectancy and quality of life and so on and so forth, livelihoods and so on and so forth, you're industrial. If you're lucky and you have spin-offs and you can set up tens of thousands of such companies across the place, or you can scale and get employment for, how many, and your name can be mentioned, as employing millions of people, yeah, so be it. But don't shy away from little beginnings. And let's not shy from what is the so-called failure. I'll say this in our end. Sometimes it's as if you do it and it doesn't work, meets the expectation. That's what society calls failure. But actually, for us scientists, we know that actually can lead to another hypothesis. I'm doing a trial in Asante Achim North, and we're introducing a new vaccine we're developing. And we're beginning to see something, I can say it now, in a population. And it's giving me an idea, which perhaps, if we do, it might help with promoting the public health life of our communities. But that's, somebody may see what we're doing as failure, but it's actually giving us a solution to something that you're doing. I'm saying that consistency is key. The people who have developed 200 years, they started 250 years ago. They've been doing it. They've been at it. They've been at it. They've been at it. They've been at it. What we don't do is that we're not tenacious, and we don't want to, keep doing it. We easily give up. And then, because obviously the interests also change and so on and so forth. But let's keep at it. Once we keep at it, Cobric, we started from, I remember it was in Labadi. We sat at Labadi Beach Hotel one afternoon. We're discussing all of these things. Now Cobric is, and many of you are part of Cobric now. So I encourage all of us to persevere in the space. And hopefully, one day, it will be better. Thank you very much.
Can we do it better? Since we didn't ask you to do, but you took the initiative, do it better. Okay, let me just end by saying that don't shy little beginnings. If I don't know where Prof has been, he said bullet works everywhere, but I've been to place bullet don't work. So we still need to continue to do the research. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So just as tradition, we always do tradition, we always appreciate our keynote speakers. But before then, there are some people we should mention. So we invited the Regional Director of Health and the Regional Director of Education. So the Regional Director of Education responded. He's out, but he sent the Deputy to present us. So the Deputy is here. She is Harriet Aidan Segu. And also Harriet, that's Harriet. And also the PRO of Education, Regional PRO is also here. She is Rebecca Quinu. Yes. And then we also have a lot of dignitaries here. Professor Sebastian Eliasson, who is the Dean of the Medical School, my boss. And we have my second boss, Dr. Osemafo, who is representing the Provost of CANS and is also a board member at Cape Coast Teaching Hospital. So you see, they are here. But you see, those who should be here who implement always leave after the opening ceremony. So I will call Mrs. Harriet Aidan to help me present our plaque to our keynote speaker. Professor Keynote. Where should we stand? For the drivers. Here. So it's the usual thing, you know. Oh yeah, you can read it. It's the usual thing. But this is short, so.
All right. The College of Health and Allied Sciences, University of Cape Coast, and the Convention for Biomedical Research, Ghana, greatly appreciates your participation as a keynote speaker at the second COHAS and 15th COBRIC Joint Scientific Conference under the theme Biomedical and Clinical Research in Africa, Connecting Scientists for Future Innovations. We acknowledge your dedication to the promotion of biomedical science and research in Ghana. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harriet. Thank you all. So we are now moving straight away to the second session. We'll go after the photograph, so we just have a 5-minute break. But the interesting thing is, I like how he started. He said, inspired. Let's inspire ourselves. The second plenary speaker is the AI guy of Cape Coast. So as we are inspiring ourselves, remember we need AI. So he's going to talk about AI in biomedical sciences after this. Tomorrow, our speaker is also talking about health technologies. So inspire, AI, health technology, and then Friday is industrialization. So we'll have the complete process. Then by next year, some of us will also start our industry. And he says industry is not, even a lotto kiosk can be an industry. All right, so just relax for the next 5 minutes as we take a group photograph here, and then our AI talk will follow. At least we are trying to be on time. Normally, by this time, we'll be about 30 minutes late, but I think we're about 5 minutes late. So, bear with us. Okay, so please, keynote professor, Professor Margaret, provost, plenary speaker. Want to? Yeah. For the drivers, they sit or they stand. Okay. For the driver service, you stand.